to now stream live. Okay, great. Members of the Board of Trustees, Committee on Audit, please respond present when you hear your name. Trustee Kevin Kim.
Here.
Trustee Mojica may be absent and excused. We can come back. Trustee O'Donnell Tormey.
Present.
Trustee Berger.
Present.
Professor Ned Benton, who's the faculty rep.
Present.
Excellent. Professor John Verzani, who's the faculty alternate.
Present.
The student representative, Sarah Ortiz. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much. Present.
Alfonso Di Rocco, the student alternate. I didn't see. Okay. So Trustee Thompson. Nope. And Trustee Picant. I did see you.
Present.
How are you?
Good.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Gail. We do have a quorum, and so I will now call this public meeting of the Committee on Audit to order. On March 7th, 2020, Governor Cuomo issued Executive Order 202, declaring a state of emergency in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. On March 13th, 2020, Governor Cuomo issued Executive Order 202.1, which included a suspension of law allowing the attendance of meetings telephonically or other similar service. Article 7 of the Public Offices Law, to the extent necessary to permit any public body to meet and take such actions authorized by the law without permitting public in-person access to meetings, and authorizing such meetings to be held remotely by conference call or similar service, provided that the public has the ability to view or listen to such proceeding and that such meetings are recorded and later transcribed. In accordance with the executive order, this board meeting is being held via video conference with a live stream found at the CUNY Board of Trustees website. We are also testing a closed captioning feature, which you can see on the bottom of the screen. A copy of the agenda is also available online at the CUNY Board of Trustees website. Additional items may be added during the meeting. As a reminder, please mute your audio so we can ensure that everyone can hear. I would now like to ask the Secretary to take a roll call attendance for members of the Chancellery and other invited guests. Gail?
Thanks, Kevin. And I see we've been joined by Trustee Thompson. So I will add you to the list. Okay. Members of the Chancellery and other invited guests, please respond present when you hear your name. Chancellor Rodriguez, Matos Rodriguez.
Present.
Excellent. The General Counsel and Senior Vice Chancellor for Legal Affairs, Derek Davis.
Present.
Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Operating Officer, Hector Batista. Hector's with us yet. Senior Vice Chancellor Matthew Sapienza.
Present.
Vice Chancellor Brian Cohen. Not yet. Vice Chancellor Richard White. Okay. President Michelle Anderson. And for staff, we have Christina Chiappa. Hi, Christina.
Hi, present.
Excellent. Robert Berlinger, I think, was having difficulty. Tisha was going to be helping him. Robert, did you make it on? We can come back. Thomas Zhao.
I think he's having difficulties as well.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Jitu Singh.
Same.
All right. And Mike D'Amica, I know, is having an issue. And I think Catherine Rodriguez also will be joining us. Michelle Anderson just joined. Let me admit her. Hi, Michelle. We just took attendance, so I will mark you as present. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Let's now turn to the items requiring a vote today. Given that all board members are participating remotely via Zoom and we cannot see everyone at once on the screen, I will announce the resolutions and ask for members to respond only if you would like to abstain or oppose an item. Otherwise, your vote will be recorded as a yes vote. If you are voting no or abstaining, please state your name and vote. Additionally, if you wish to second an item or have any questions, please state your name first for the record, and let's try to avoid speaking over one another. We will now take up the following action for approval. Action item 1A is the approval of the minutes of the October 29, 2020 meeting. I move for the approval of action item 1A. Do I have a second?
Berger, second.
Thank you, Trustee Berger. Any discussion on this? Okay, we will now vote then. Please only respond if you would like to abstain or oppose. Hearing none, this motion is now approved. We'll move on to address action item 2, the policy calendar. Action item 2A is the approval of the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, GLBA for short, Financial Information Security Program Policy. The Federal Trade Commission Safeguard Rules, which implements the security provisions of the GLBA, went into effect on May 23, 2003. The GLBA requires financial institutions, colleges, and universities to protect the security, confidentiality, and integrity of customer financial records of non-public personally identifiable information. In response to this new policy, in 2004, the university issued written guidance to the college campuses on GLBA. To emphasize the importance of GLBA compliance, the university has updated the guidance into a policy that will require any college, office, or department that collects, stores, or processes non-public personally identifiable data to implement data protection standards. The university is seeking approval from the Board of Trustees to adopt the CUNY GLBA Financial Information Security Program Policy, and that the policy is made effective immediately upon approval. I will now turn it over to Senior Vice Chancellor Matthew Sapienza, who can provide more information on this. Senior Vice Chancellor.
Thanks so much, Chair Kim, and good afternoon, everyone. Good to see all of you. As Chair Kim said, we have one item for consideration today, which is this updated policy on the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, which, as the Chair said, we refer to as GLBA. As Chair Kim indicated, we've had this policy in effect since 2004, but obviously, since it was 16 years ago, it needed a refresh. And a lot of that refresh is not only due to timing, because there has been the incorporation of best practices, and the GLBA requirements and interpretations have evolved over that time. And I think, as a lot of you know, the last 3 years we have been bringing to the board several. I think we've had 9 overall, either new financial policies or updated financial policies that we've brought to the board in order to continue to make sure that we are in line with the latest requirements and interpretations on a whole host of financial issues. And so we've done some collaborative work. My office, the Office of Budget and Finance, with our Computing and Information Services Office, with Risk and Internal Audit, and Legal as well, Office of General Counsel. So very grateful to our colleagues in those central offices for the good collaboration on that. We have shared the draft policy with the colleges as well, and have gotten some terrific feedback from them as well. So I'm going to ask our Deputy Chief Financial Officer, Christina Chiappa. We put together some slides, which we sent to you on Friday. We thought it would be better to go through a presentation to go through the highlights of this new policy rather than go through the policy itself. And so I'm going to ask Christina to go through that, and then we're happy to take any questions or concerns along the way.
Great, thanks, Matt. Let me just share my screen.
Is it not letting you?
No, it doesn't want to let me.
Okay. Do you want me to?
Gail, can you promote Christina to a co-host?
Yeah, I did, but hang on one second. Let's go back and we'll make her a co-host. It should have, let's see. Let's see if that'll let you do it.
Should I try again?
Sure.
Yep, looks like it is.
Yeah.
All right, can everyone see? Yep, it's working.
Yep, you're good.
Great. So Matt gave some information. I'm not going to repeat that. So I just have a couple of slides that I just wanted to go over. It's kind of a little bit of a condensed version of the policy, just to kind of clarify what GLBA is and what we have done as a university. So the Grant Leach Blood Act, like Matt mentioned, started in 2003. We had issued administrative guidance, and now 16 years later, we've updated that. And we really want to make this into a policy that's approved by the board to recognize, how important this compliance is to us. So the law mandates that financial institutions, and they do include higher education in here, to develop, implement, maintain administrative, technical, physical safeguards, which I'll talk about a little later, to protect the security, integrity, and confidentiality of customer information. So it's kind of a big, that's kind of the gist of the laws. And the Federal Trade Commission is the body that enforces compliance with it. And so GLBA from the onset has been very important to us because it's part of the university's federal program participate agreement, which we have to be in compliance with and sign in order to receive federal financial aid. So essentially the two parts that I just want to briefly talk about the GLBA that really relates to higher education is the privacy rule and the safeguards rule. And what specifically the FTC has said is that if you have a FERPA policy and Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act policy, and you're in compliance with FERPA, you don't have to do anything different else. And we do have that. The university has a board-approved policy that covers FERPA. We actually call it a student records access policy. So we're thankfully on the GLBA, we actually are that's taken care of through this policy, through that policy. And what I'm going to be speaking today is really the safeguard rule, and that's really covered by this GLBA policy, but not in a vacuum. And you'll see that, GLBA and other rules and regulations talk about security of data. And while GLBA has some specific rules, there are a lot of different policies that we already have in the university that cover a lot of those requirements. So the GLBA safeguards objectives, again, which is not unique to other rules, it's to ensure the security and confidentiality of customer information, protect against anticipated threats or hazards to that security or integrity of the information, and also protect against unauthorized access or use of that information. And just below here, I just wanted to mention a couple of the policies, and further in the presentation, I have some more. There are a lot of different policies and procedures that the university has that covers various aspects of security over our information. And where GLBA is a little bit different from our regular information security policies and procedure is GLBA also covers security of sensitive data outside of the systems. So obviously, when someone prints out secure data or gets data, secure data over the phone or otherwise, that also needs to be secure. And this policy really focuses a lot on identifying the different departments and offices in the university that need to know about GLBA compliance and have a role in ensuring that we are compliant both inside and outside our information systems. So the safeguards requirements requires companies to develop a written information security plan. And it specifically talks about 5 different areas that need to be covered, that we have covered in the policy. And I'm going to just speak really briefly about in this presentation. One is to designate an employee to coordinate the program. The second is to identify and assess risks of covered data, which I'll talk about a little bit further what that means when I get to that slide. Design and implement an information safeguards program, oversee providers and contracts, and 5, program review and revision. So in terms of the first requirement, it's to designate an employee to coordinate the program. As Matt said at the beginning, putting this together really has been a joint project for a lot of offices. But we have designated 2 offices that are really in charge of GLBA compliance. And that's really the Central Office of Budget and Finance and the Central Office Computing Information System, led by Senior Vice Chancellors Sapienza and Cohen, respectively. And so our 2 offices are responsible for administering the program, serving as a resource and liaison to the colleges, and also making sure that they have all the offices have the relevant information updates. Additionally, each college, and this is how it was put together at the onset in 2004 as well, and we've updated those names. Each college also has a local program coordinator, which the president of each college has designated. And those are our key focal points who will deal with the campuses. And they have responsibilities on the campus to making sure that all the departments know about GLBA and also about the policies and everything. So moving on to the second, moving on to the second one. The second requirement is, I was a little heavy-handed, so sorry about that, was to identify and assess risk for covered data. So in terms of covered data, what that refers to is covered data includes sensitive, personally identifiable data that's not typically public. And that would be things such as social security numbers, or it could be incomes, levels that we receive by reviewing tax returns when we have to do verifications of financial aid offices. And it also could be data that is public, but the way we're getting that data is by reviewing things like tax returns and things like that. So just a quick kind of what are some of these risks that we have identified and therefore then addressed in this policy and other policies. One is compromise security as a result of unauthorized access, unauthorized release of covered data. Now that could be, again, in both the system and externally. Interception of data during transmission, loss of data integrity, physical loss of disaster, corruption of systems. I think it probably is a pretty long list. And I just wanted to kind of give you an example of some of the things that we feel are some of the risks that we have related to data. In terms of risk assessment, another partner that Matt mentioned is the Office of Risk Audit Compliance. So while they're not a partner in implementing the policy, they are a partner in terms of they perform continuous monitoring to ensure that we're in compliance, and also they look at and help us identify risk and look at our controls for mitigating risk. And they include us in risk assessments they do and other controls they do. So they're definitely a big part of ensuring that we're in compliance with this. The third one is really designing, I don't know, on each of these areas. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of things related to each of them. One is management and training. So the policy talks about how it's incredibly important that the right departments and people understand what and that's by sending out the policy, making sure people are aware of the policy. And also both the colleges and central office does have some responsibility and performs training on GLBA as well. Then there's the information security, system security program, and that I'm actually going to speak about a little bit more because that's a pretty, robust area. But that's things like making sure, only those people that really need access to the system. And there's a whole bunch of other things, which I'm going to talk a little bit more in the next couple of slides. Another area where which we address in the policy that's really important is safeguarding both those paper and electronic records. And we talk about, passwords and, simple things like making sure filing cabinets are locked and offices when they're not used, especially places that do have data that's sensitive, and leaving uncovered data unattended, unsecured. And then another kind of big area which GLBA wants you to cover in your policies is really disposing of records. CUNY does have a record retention policy and disposition policy that has been issued by the Office of General Counsel. That's very important to our GLBA compliance, is to make sure that we know what we should keep, what we shouldn't keep, and what are the right ways to dispose of information as well. And the fourth one is really overseeing service providers and contracts. So getting back in 2004 and continue now, it's very important when we enter into any kind of agreement with an outside provider that might receive our data, is that we ensure that all our contracts have different privacy clauses. They're in compliance with GLBA. So that's something that we have started and is ongoing. And then the fifth is really says that we need to have a policy. We need to have something in place where we go back and make sure that our information security program is revised and up to date and refreshed, and takes account current and future laws and regulations, so it doesn't get stale. And then just a couple of things. I just want to talk a little bit more about the security program. This happens every time. So, at the beginning when we started to talk about the definition about GLBA, I talked about administrative, technical, and physical safeguards. And that's kind of what we have to design our program to make sure we capture that. And again, this is both responsibilities, like technical responsibilities, and then both the departments have responsibilities. So the administrative safeguards include things like publishing policies, standards, guidelines, and those are generally in control of different departments. And examples, I used example before too, is like, we have a lot of policies relating who should have access to view what into the system is an example of that. Technical safeguards, these are mostly in the responsibility of both the central and the IT computing staff at the colleges also. And those kind of safeguards include things like storing data on a secure server that's only accessible through passwords, using an automatic updating antivirus software, patches, making sure those are up to date, maintaining firewalls, that kind of stuff. I think there's a pretty long list of things that we do in terms of making sure that our system is safe in terms of technical safeguards. And the last one is really physical safeguards. And again, those are things that are really more safeguards that are controlled of like various departments, making sure you update passwords, which sometimes is automated through the system. Just be aware of fraud alerts and things like that. So that was kind of just talk about the policy. And then again, I just wanted to bring up that, this GLBA policy doesn't really stand alone. There are a lot of different policies, and I've only included some of them here that, for us to be GLBA clients, we also have these different policies and procedures that are an important part of ensuring compliance with that and other standards. And then that was just, that's pretty much the areas that I want to cover. And there are, I just want to say we have some, Vice Chancellor Cohen is here, along with Robert Berlinger, who's in charge of the information security at our system. And I have some colleagues from our office, Thomas Down Gitu Singh, who are big parts of this policy. And we also have Mike D'Amico, and I think Vice Chancellor White is on, who were part of the policy, and we're all here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Christina. Does anyone have a question? My question is, it sounds like we already had a lot of these other security procedures in place, and we're kind of just formalizing it and getting board approval. In implementing anything that's new or different, is there a much increase in cost in trying to comply with any of the new implementation plans?
No, I don't, not for the GLBA. You know, we put a lot of things in place. It's a lot of internal practices and training, and it's compliance with some things. So from my standpoint, I don't know if anyone else has other thoughts. You know, I think there's really not a huge cost in terms of dollars. There's definitely a cost about time and making sure that, you know, we make sure that everyone is aware of these policies.
That's true for CIS too, Trustee Kim. We had all the infrastructure in place. We were ready to sort of support this.
Yes, if I can add in on the risk aspect, obviously we concur. A lot of this aspects that we're doing and on our risk assessment is to ensure that out in the field and our colleges have the knowledge and are aware of the tools that are available. So our risk assessments are first to find out what our exposure is, and then more importantly, working with our partners in CIS and budget to ensure that those campuses and our facilities know what tools are available for them to make sure, reminding them, don't click on certain sites, taking your cybersecurity education courses, making sure that there are banners up, affording you and warning you if a site is outside of the norm. So a large portion of what's happening here is not only assessing what exists out there by way of risk, but ensuring that our colleagues are aware of by way of education. And it's no different than any other corporation when they do their assessments. Education is a tremendous portion, and that's certainly what exists here.
Thank you. And how often do you think we need to revisit this, the compliance plans? Every 2 years, every year?
Trustee Kim, is that directed to anyone directly? Is that me?
No, just the group that helped formulate the policy.
You're asking a compliance guy how often I should do compliance. I'm not sure my colleagues may concur, but certainly, at least on the rack end, we randomly do our checks, and then working with the chancellor and the vice chancellor and our chief operating officer. In fact, I was just talking to Hector about that before. We'll provide some guidance when the updates need to be done. I mean, technology shifts, and we make adjustments on a regular basis, and certainly we do that accordingly. I'll leave that up also for my other colleagues, but on the compliance end, that's certainly how we look at it.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? No one else has any questions, then I will now move to approve action item 2A. Do I have a second?
Berger, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, we can now vote. Please only respond if you would like to abstain or oppose. Hearing none, this motion is approved. I just want to thank Matt, Christina, Richard, Brian, everybody else who chimed in and putting this all together. We really appreciate your work. I know there's a lot going on in terms of online programming and security and cybersecurity, everything that's going on. So we really want to thank you for the time and effort you're putting into this. With no more items on the agenda, I will now move to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second, O'Donnell Torney.
Thank you. Unless anyone has anything else to say, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.